Hi everyone, I am back so we can continue where we left off. So in my previous video, I was talking about um, our transition to Ghana. When we got to Accra, we found out that things were going to be difficult, and I wanted to backtrack a little bit because I wanted to explain to you where we were coming from and how we had to navigate through this process of our journey. So we lived in Houston before moving to Accra, Houston, Texas. And we moved to Houston in 2015. And so Houston, Texas is all my then 3-year-old son knew. We made some very good relationships in Houston. We lived amongst people that we would call family. It was a great community. It is a great community. There's a very strong African and Cameroonian community in Houston. The support that we received in Houston, was priceless. We felt like it was home. We had family around us, so we're pretty happy in Houston. But the show had to go on, right? We still wanted to move to Africa, and that has been our dream since I met my husband in 2006. We always talked about hopefully moving back home one day, and so to us, moving to Ghana was the closest thing to home. So we sold our house in Houston 2019, January 2019, but we still had 2 weeks, to be in country before our exit out of the States. So a friend of ours, who's more like a brother to us, took us in, and it was one of, we're so grateful because we had a 3-year-old and a 7-year-old, and it's not easy, living with a feisty, active 3-year-old, but he made us feel so comfortable, and we were so grateful. We spent 2 weeks, and then during that time, we were not working because we had to make sure our things were packed up in a container, and we used an agent. So the agent was like, "Oh yeah, I got this. I'm from Ghana. I know my way around this. This is what I do every day." So he packed up our things. We saw him lock the container. It's a 40-foot container. He locked it up, and we saw him take that container to the Houston port. So we were like, "Oh, okay, well, we're all done with that, and we're good to go." So we moved. We flew from Accra to DC, and from Houston to DC, and DC to Accra. We knew that, well, things we get here, on a certain day, it's going to take 6 weeks. We already spent about 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks in Houston. So we had another 3 weeks before we got our cars and our household items, our personal belongings. So we were like, okay, well, 3 weeks won't be bad. So we went ahead and rented a short-term apartment here in Accra. Okay. So once we got there, everything was set. We had everything. I mean, it was great. At the airport, we looked at each other. We're like, are we in Accra? Everything was good. It was a seamless transition into Accra. We had no problems at the airport. We had Uber at our fingertips. GPS was working. If you wanted to go to a restaurant, you could just have Uber take you there. The GPS was good. So life seemed very good until we started living in our short-term rental. Then we realized quickly that in Africa you just can't turn on the AC just like that, because now in Ghana electricity is prepaid. So you put in certain amount of electricity. If it's $100, you put it in, and when it runs out, then you have to fill it up. We didn't know that, so we just cranked up the AC. It was pretty hot. Accra in February is hot. That's what part of the dry season. So we had no idea. Okay, so we're like, yeah, it's hot. Turn the AC on. Turn the AC on. Let the AC run, and then within 2 days, we had no electricity. I woke up one night drenched in sweat. I'm like, what the hell is going on? What the hell is going on? And we had no electricity. We had to open the windows. I had to practice, actually fan the kids from about 3 a.m. to about 6 a.m. because it was hot. They woke up screaming, crying, "Mom, it's hot, it's hot, it's hot." And I was up too. So strip them down, put a cool towel on them, and then wet towel on them, and then fan them the whole night. Okay, that was me fanning these kids. My husband, he can sleep in whatever. It's a man, so he can sleep in whatever. If it's hot, as long as he's tired, he'll sleep. So we woke up at 6 o'clock, and my husband was livid. He's like, these people didn't put enough. They didn't, something's wrong with the electricity. He called them like, what's going on? And they were like, say, madam, you used all your electricity. You have to pay for more. And we're like, what are you talking about? And they're like, yep, you have to top off. And we were trying to understand how to manage that. And so basically you have to set up an account, and then every few days you have to check your account to make sure that if you're running low, you top it off. And so we quickly realized that we had been using the heater, which is a really bad idea because Accra is really hot, but in the morning it's a little cool, so taking cool showers. So yep, we were pretty spoiled using the heater, turning the AC on. So then from that time onwards, the scales dropped off our eyes because we realized that this is a whole different ball game. Okay, you cannot just crank up the AC whenever you feel like it. You're all gonna be in the same room at the same time. So at night, we're all in the living room, and we only turn on the AC in the kids' room when they're going to sleep, or in our room when we're going to sleep. But apart from that, we all have to stay in the same room. We have to love each other because each other's company, because this is how it's going to be. Our kids are young, so they don't mind. They don't hang out with us. So we learned things pretty early on. We learned how to navigate the system. We learned that the Uber drivers, will tell you, oh, we have AC when you call them. And when they get there, they'll tell you, oh, madam, the AC is broken. It's not working. Because, if you use more AC, then you have to use more gas. So we started telling them that if you don't turn on your AC, we're not, we just rather cancel. So, February in Ghana, it's very hot. Well, moving forward, we started working, pretty quickly. And so then we realized that in order for us to get things done well, you have to know someone who knows someone who knows someone. So it's all about word of mouth and connections in Accra. And Accra is pretty, I'm not trying to paint a terrible picture, because Accra is pretty easy to live in. You have grocery stores that are like grocery stores in the States. You have Uber, you have nice restaurants, you have a pretty vibrant community. And a lot of expats live here in Accra. So we didn't feel like, we're a fish out of water. We felt pretty comfortable, integrating into, the whole community in Accra. So we're pretty happy with what we saw and how we felt. It's just that I guess living in America for so long had really, really spoiled us. And so certain things that we took for granted there, here in Accra, was an eye-opener. You can't do that. So we stayed in the short-term lease for 6 weeks, and during that time we were looking for a long-term, a permanent place. So we hired an agency that really helped us a lot. So they offer services, from finding you a place, and then they get it ready, and then they help you set up your lease, and then they will forever manage your rental life in Accra if you want. It comes at the cost, but it's better because they know the system already. So we went around looking for homes, and then we found one that we really loved. But the house hunting experience was an eye-opener for me, because I couldn't believe that houses in Accra were that expensive. Okay, we saw houses that were $10,000. I don't have that kind of money. We saw houses that were like $7,000. We saw houses of $5,000. We saw houses with $3,000. And houses that were like $2,000, they weren't anywhere near ready. Okay, you couldn't find anything decent in the neighborhood that we're looking at, because we wanted to live close to home. Close to work, just because the traffic in Accra is crazy. So you don't want to live far from work. You want to live close to work, except you want to wake up around 4 a.m. every morning and start driving out, because Accra, as beautiful as Accra is, we don't have enough roads for the many cars that are on it. Okay, the private sector is booming. It's doing so well. Everybody has a car, and there are not enough roads, so we're all cramped up trying to get to work, and we realized that we have to live close by for work and for school. I didn't come here to be waking up at 4 a.m. I just feel like that was behind me. So we ended up finding a place that we felt like we could afford. I was still in denial. I was still in shock, because I felt like we were paying too much money. I grew up in Cameroon, and back in the days, I'd never heard of anyone paying rental for $1,000, let alone more than that. So I was pretty bummed. But then I quickly had to change my mindset that even though this was Africa, we were in Accra, and Accra is expensive. So I got over that quickly, very quickly. When we went to just to buy things around, the food stalls, and we were here, okay, want to buy a mango. Okay, a mango, $1. And I'm like, oh my gosh, in Cameroon, I could buy a bucket of mangoes for $1. But then again, I never lived in Yaoundé, which is the capital city, so I don't know how much mangoes cost in Yaoundé. I know that in my small little town in Tiku, mangoes were not, they were not $1 for a mango. Or in Bamenda, where my mom lives, my parents lived when they retired, mangoes they're cheap. So I was trying not to compare Accra with Cameroon, but every day I'll be like, man, I feel like I'm back in the States, because everything that you find in Walmart, you find in Accra, in the grocery store in Accra. So so that's our first few months in Accra. We were spending time exploring the city. Work wasn't heavy. We hadn't found a place yet. Our things weren't, they were supposedly in transit. But then we realized that something was terribly wrong. Okay. Each time I would put up the tracking